Why are Mormon temple ceremonies secret to the public when the Old Testament temple ceremonies were open to public knowledge?
Question 47. Why are Mormon temple ceremonies secret to the public when the Old Testament ceremonies were open to public knowledge? Okay, first of all, the term secret is not exactly accurate. They are sacred. The public knows very well that the ceremonies take place, that it is simply that they are viewed as sacred and to be seen and participated in by those who have demonstrated their worthiness and willingness to follow God. However, they are not open to public view. This is true. Well, the question is comparing modern temple ceremonies with the Old Testament temple ceremonies. And this is specifically the temple ceremonies under the law of Moses, because the Bible gives no record of temple ceremonies before the time of Moses. So the simple truth is, the temples in the Old Testament were temples of the Aaronic priesthood. They officiated in a different set of ordinances, while the temples in the modern day are the temples of the Melchizedek priesthood, having its own set of ordinances. Now, the difference between these two priesthoods and the ordinances of their temples can be seen in the scriptures. This is most directly stated in Doctrine and Covenants, section 107. First, in verse 18, we read, "The power and authority of the higher or Melchizedek priesthood is to hold the keys of all the spiritual blessings of the church." Then in verse 20, we read, "The power and authority of the lesser or Aaronic priesthood is to hold the keys of the ministering of angels and to administer in outward ordinances the letter of the gospel, the baptism of repentance for the remission of sins, agreeable to the covenants and commandments." So the Aaronic priesthood is the priesthood of outward ordinances, meaning public, things that can be viewed by anybody. While still sacred, they are not reserved for those who have proven their worthiness and willingness to follow God. The Melchizedek priesthood, on the other hand, holds the keys for all spiritual blessings, including those that are reserved for people who have proven their worthiness and willingness. Now, the idea that the Aaronic priesthood deals in these outward ordinances is shown in the Bible. It does not use the phrase outward ordinances in the Bible, but rather the phrase carnal commandments. Now, in the King James Bible, we read this in Hebrews chapter 7, verse 16, in which it states, "Who is made not after the law of a carnal commandment, but after the power of an endless life." Now this is talking about Christ and his priesthood, and it is comparing the Aaronic to the Melchizedek. Not made after a law of carnal commandments, which is the Aaronic priesthood, but after the power of an endless life, which is held by the Melchizedek priesthood. The law of Moses held only the Aaronic priesthood and therefore performed only the outward ordinances. When the Melchizedek priesthood was restored, the ordinances of the Melchizedek priesthood was restored, and these ordinances are not of an outward nature. They are not for public viewing. The temples in the time of Moses performed only those ordinances that were allowed to be viewed by the public, while in the modern temples we perform the ordinances that are not allowed to be viewed by the public. We still have the ordinances of the Aaronic priesthood, and they are still viewable by anybody who wants to come watch.